Hi, I'm Andrew from Parlogram, and as many of you know, I love physical media. I also love vintage equipment and appreciate good sound quality. But despite owning hundreds of CDs, I hardly ever listen to them anymore. That's not because I don't own a CD player. In fact, I own one of the earliest CD players ever made, this Philips CD100 from 1983, which still works perfectly. But as it's now a fairly valuable collector's piece, it's not something I want to use every day. I also have a CD player in this MIDI system, but after years of sitting unused, it no longer works. And I have this CD-ROM drive attached to my computer, but it's really only used for getting CDs onto the hard drive. So despite owning hundreds of CDs and several ways of playing them, much of my CD collection simply sits on the shelf, and in the case of my Beatles collection, in this box. Inside here are more than 200 Beatles bootlegs and high-quality vinyl transfers that I've collected over the years. Yet most of them haven't been played in a very long time. And as you can see, some of these are too good to be sitting unused in a box. So when a company got in touch a few weeks ago and offered to send me a rather unusual CD player, it raised an interesting question. Could it actually get me listening to CDs again? Now, before I show you the player, it's important to understand what this product is and what it isn't. Some people will inevitably dismiss it as a classic case of style over substance, but I think they're overlooking the fact that the style is part of the substance. This isn't a high-end CD player aimed at audiophiles, and it's not trying to compete with a traditional hi-fi system, and it isn't intended to replace one. That's like criticising a Mini Cooper because it isn't a Range Rover. They're designed to do different things. What struck me is that it didn't add any more clutter. Like many collectors, I'm surrounded by records, CDs, books and equipment, and the last thing I need is another large black box competing for shelf space. But the real question isn't whether this can replace a traditional hi-fi system, it's whether it can get me listening to my CD collection again. This is a lifestyle product. It's designed to make CDs visible, accessible and enjoyable again. And for someone like me, with hundreds of CDs stored on shelves and in boxes, that's actually a very interesting proposition. So, let's take a look at it. The player is designed to be listened to via Bluetooth, but there is a 3.5mm analog output on the side if you'd prefer a wired connection. Although for me, that rather defeats the purpose of the design. It's also worth noting that Bluetooth only works as a transmitter. In other words, you can send music from the player to a Bluetooth speaker, but you can't stream music from your phone to the player itself. Perhaps one of its biggest strengths is that it doesn't look like a piece of hi-fi equipment, and that's more important than it might sound, because if something is attractive enough to leave out on display, it's far more likely to get used. Of course, a CD player is only half the story. To see whether this could become part of my everyday life, I wanted to pair it with something retro-looking. And my Bluetooth speaker of choice was the One Plus from Klipsch. So, has this got me listening to CDs again? Yes, it has. The sound quality was certainly good enough that it never became an issue. Ultimately, I think the speaker you pair it with will have a far greater influence on the sound than the player itself. In my case, the Klipsch speaker proved to be an excellent match. It sounded far better than I expected and was more than capable of filling my living space with music. No, it didn't replace sitting down in front of my main hi-fi system and listening critically to an album, but that wasn't really what I wanted it to do. It was there to bring CDs back into my everyday life. I rediscovered parts of my CD collection that I haven't visited in years. And that's probably the biggest compliment I can pay this player. The player is available with either a black or white frame, and retails for just under €140, which at the time of filming is around $160. If you'd like to find out more, you'll find a link in the description. Full disclosure, it is an affiliate link, so I do receive a small commission if you decide to buy one, which helps support the channel. But now I'd like to hear from you. Do you still listen to CDs? Could something like this tempt you back to the format, or are you perfectly happy with the way you listen to music today? So, my thanks to Cool Geek for sending me this player, and of course, to you for watching.